Hello everyone, welcome to the Torin Dove Financial Channel. Today we're going to be going over another episode of Microcap Mania. Now for those of you who are not aware, we have a portfolio here on the channel that we invest specifically in microcap companies with a little bit of wiggle room, of course, if something's right on the verge between small and micro and it kind of goes back and forth, we put a little bit of an allowance in there. But today we actually have a really interesting video for you. I'm going to be doing a kind of breakdown and analysis of Potbelly Sandwich Works. Really what kind of brought me to this company was I was trying to, again, diversify our portfolio. We have a wide variety of offerings so far in the Microcap Mania portfolio. You can, of course, go check out those earlier videos if you'd like and see kind of which companies actually did make it into the portfolio itself. But again, so far it's been a very diverse portfolio, and I kind of wanted to keep that going. And I looked for something more in the consumer defensive, consumer staples, anything kind of in consumer discretionary, even anything in that category. And I actually stumbled upon Potbelly Sandwich Works. Now, I was actually aware of this company prior to actually looking into an investment for them, as they are, I'd say, not specifically in stocks and where they trade, but they are a rather large company, and they do have like quite a lot of brand awareness, specifically anytime you've looked to go eat, and you've probably at some point eaten a Potbelly sandwich or at least stopped by and visited a Potbelly location before. So today, again, I'm going to be going through this company and kind of looking to see whether or not it'll make it into the Microcap Mania portfolio. So without further ado, let's get started and get right into the video. Potbelly Corporation is a sandwich concept that has been feeding families with sandwiches, salads, hand-dipped shakes, cookies, and additional items in a wide portfolio of offerings for over 50 years. The company was actually founded all the way back in 1977 in an antique store on Lincoln Avenue in Chicago. Basically, in order to boost sales, the owner actually kind of wanted to bring people into the antique store, and so he came in with some loaves of bread, and he wanted to take on the challenge of trying to sell food to get more people into the store. And really quickly what ended up happening was he was making such good sandwiches that nobody actually came for the antiques at all, and the antique store portion kind of became an afterthought, and the sandwich shop really became the focus for him. Now, it was 20 years before Potbelly actually opened more locations, and the company has since then expanded to well over 400 locations now. We're going to go get into the actual numbers, but by the time you include franchises and everything else, it's well over 600. So, Potbelly's business model revolves around 5 cost-effective strategies, and these are considered the 5 pillars of what makes Potbelly Potbelly. Craveable food at good value, people creating good vibes, customer experience that drives growth, digital awareness, and franchise-focused development. Now, something that was really interesting to see when reading through the Potbelly Corporation 10K is that the company is very metric heavy. Now, anyone who's worked in anything related to the food industry knows there are a lot of metrics, but what kind of separates a good boss from a bad boss is whether or not they actually pay attention to these and really try and use them to benefit both the brand and those locations. So Potbelly has a balanced scorecard system that actually measures the efficiency and the productivity of each of its locations, and they really emphasize a little bit of a competition aspect, allowing different locations to see what other locations' scores are. And I think this really kind of, again, drives into that competition with each shop wanting to provide the best customer service and generate the most revenue. Now, Potbelly is actually open around 22 states. They have 96 franchised locations currently. And also in 2024, it's interesting to note that in a year where many companies actually raised prices, I don't know if any of you were paying attention to fast food prices at the time, but it was a big thing for some of the more sit-down restaurants and some of the larger companies that actually would look at this, and it was basically a big deal that a lot of companies were raising prices. They actually were able to drop prices a little bit and in some products and keep them flat in others. And the average check per entree only dropped by 2 cents. So basically, Potbelly has prioritized doing what is best for its company or customers at all costs, and I think this is a really efficient strategy that they've adopted. And going forward, I'm kind of excited to see how they're able to scale that. Now, Potbelly's typical franchise agreement, because now a lot of the revenues are coming from people who are approaching them on this, is a 6% net sales every week, an initial franchise fee, and ongoing fees for operational and IT support. Currently, the goal is for Potbelly to have 2,000 operational stores open in the near future. That's been the target for a while now, and that's kind of what they're setting in place. They're really right now in go and expansion mode. They've had their 50 years or so of being open, and now they're really trying to prioritize being a growth company. So as of Q1 2025, the company has been able to fully open 766 of these stores. And again, there's a breakdown between which of the stores are actually going to be franchised and which of the stores are actually going to be owned by them. Additionally, since May 2024, Potbelly has actually repurchased over $2 million in shares. I always like to see that a company that doesn't necessarily pay dividends is using its capital well and trying to actually do things that are, again, accredited to the shareholders of that company. Now, I actually went out of my way to listen to several interviews with CEOs and executives of the company, and I was left with the impression that they were actually both pretty knowledgeable and very passionate about growing the brand and growing Potbelly Corporation into something larger. So Bob Wright is their CEO, and it's kind of fun. He got his start in the food industry as a Domino's driver over 20 years ago, and has since then has definitely prioritized, since becoming the CEO of Potbelly, has definitely prioritized the digital landscape of things. Now, obviously, in order to compete in an industry at all as competitive as a food service, and specifically the sandwich location, I mean, you have Subway, you have Jersey Mike's, you have just a number of those types of shops. You have to both bring quality and innovation into the play. And Potbelly has again, time and time again, proven that they're very, very highly focused on trying to actually create better products, bring new offerings. They have new steak sandwiches. They have a banana milkshake that they're pushing right now that they're seeing great reception on. They've been prioritizing trying to make their cookies better. Just a lot of things that, don't necessarily sound like all that big, but then if you bring them together, that it allows for them to steal market share from some of the larger players. And the fact they've even made it 50 years should be a sign, considering again how competitive the restaurant scene is. Now, going through the Q1 earning highlights, Potbelly reported revenues of $113.7 million, which is up 2.3% from last year's Q1. Earnings per share was actually flat, which exceeded analyst expectations. Typically, Q1, looking back through some of their earnings, Q1 has typically been a little bit on the weaker side compared to the rest of the year for them, and so this was actually kind of more in line to see. Now, additionally, adjusted EBITDA was $5.52 million, which again exceeded analyst expectations, and Potbelly really wanted to emphasize that there was a lot of potential growth going forward, really focusing again in terms of the R&D specifically on their digital assets, as over 42% of the orders that they actually faced in Q1 were placed digitally, which again, this is kind of a trend we're seeing in this space where a lot more customers are ordering online. They're taking advantage of rewards apps and things of that nature. And the company also laid out a path for an additional 38 location by year's end. Now, we get into kind of the bread and butter in terms of the actual investment itself and what it's trading for. Currently, Potbelly Company trades at a PE ratio of 8, it trades at a price to sales ratio of 74 basis points, which is incredible. Anytime you're able to acquire shares of a high quality company for less than they're actually doing sales is kind of incredible. And a price to book of 5.76. Really, I think for me, in terms of what I'd like to see in a company like this going forward, is obviously they're putting a lot of emphasis on expansion, and they have seen and taken on some debt in order to do that. So I'm not necessarily worried about when I look through the balance sheet and I see a lot of debt and a lot of long term debt and leasing debt. I'm not necessarily as worried about that because they're showing that they can generate things out of each of these new locations. And by being able to expand, I think they're going to eventually become a great potential acquisition target, or even just a company that can steal market share from the larger players that are already established in industry. So overall, I kind of came to this company after cycling through a lot of the things in the space and trying to prioritize again, creating a diverse portfolio in our Microcap Mania portfolio. And so I'm actually going to go ahead and add Potbelly Company in. I think in the next 3 to 5 years, it's realistic to say they'll be a lot closer to that 2000 location mark that they're really trying to push. And I think quite a bit before then, we might actually see some potential acquisition offers and kind of look for a company that wants to add something like a Sandwich Works into their portfolio of offerings. So overall, I'm pretty impressed with Potbelly Company and what they've been able to do so far. They've been able to, even 3 years back, they're going from net income that is not good at all to now they're starting to see they saw a big jump up in earnings last year. And so I'm thinking that they can kind of continue this success. It's a little bit of a momentum play, but overall, I think investing in this company, especially while it's trading so low in really their growth and expansion era, is going to be great and highly beneficial to the portfolio itself. So overall, Potbelly is making it into the Microcap Mania portfolio. Thank you so much, guys, for checking out today's video. I really appreciate your time as always, and I'll be trying to get some more videos out in the future very soon. Thank you.